Hi, I'm Megan Hett, and this is my video for AEP 855 on inclusive leadership. First, I want to talk about a couple of resources I found on the topic of inclusive leadership, and then look at some of the challenges and some techniques for being an inclusive leader in the classroom. The first resource I looked at was an article titled Boosting Achievement by Pursuing Diversity, and this looked at the issue of students from low-income schools struggling in school, and the problem with them achieving at lower levels than students from mixed or high-income schools. So a lot of public and charter schools are currently looking at the idea of redistricting students and changing enrollment so that schools are more mixed income instead of low income, and bringing students from different social classes together to learn. And this is shown to be beneficial to students academically. They have benefits such as learning with other high achieving peers, engaged parents, and high quality teachers. Also, statistically, students' backgrounds have a major effect on their academic achievement. But one of the reports that was looked at here, the Coleman report that was outlined in this article, found that not just their background, but the strongest indicator of student achievement was the socioeconomic composition of the school. So they can overcome their backgrounds if they're mixed in with other social class of students. Another recent study that was looked at in this article showed that all races, ethnicities, and socioeconomic statuses have higher skills in math if they attend a socioeconomically and racially integrated school. So that shows us that this model, this idea, benefits all students, not just those from the lower income homes. I thought it was interesting. One of the schools that they talked about that's doing these, or one of the districts that they've talked about, is the Salina, Kansas School District, and they're having some success with it. So some of the benefits that we've kind of talked about is that the low-income students' performance rises, and also all students receive the cognitive benefits of a diverse learning environment. I think this makes a lot of sense because not just in schools, but in all areas and businesses, it's a major benefit to work with those people that are different than you in many areas, to learn from them and just have a better understanding of others. The issue that some of this might not work for everybody is logistically. This idea is challenging to most districts, especially here in Kansas, where we have a lot of small school districts that are kind of spread out. Like in my little district, there's not a lot of diversity there. So this idea doesn't really work for us. The next resource I found is a video titled Business in the Community, Inclusive Leadership. This is really aimed more at being an inclusive leader in business, but I think there's some ideas here that can relate to the classroom, and also some benefits that are talked about that really align with the classroom. Okay, so some of the things that stood out in this video to me, the idea that an inclusive leader is able and aware to identify the diversity in their classroom or in their business in the video, but for us in the classroom, and adapt to the needs and strengths of those that they're leading. Some of the benefits that were pointed out in the video, things like increased motivation, increased performance, increased engagement. So definitely some ideas here that relate to the classroom and help us to develop our students. Okay, another article that I looked at that I thought gave a really good idea of what inclusive leadership is. It was titled "Making Inclusive Education Work," and the author describes inclusive education here as an educator. You are philosophically committed to student diversity. You appreciate that learning differences are natural and positive. You focus on identifying and capitalizing on individual students' interests and strengths. But making inclusive education work requires something more. It takes both system-level support and classroom-level support. Kind of using that as a definition, I thought about what challenges that I have as an educator. The first is definitely time. I'm a first-year teacher, and with that, everything just takes a little bit longer. Planning and thinking about lessons that I want to teach. And to be a good inclusive leader, you really have to know your students, and time is a factor there. I see my kids for 50 hours or 50 minutes a day, and I'm supposed to be teaching them during that time, and I found it's really difficult to make connections with every single student. I try, that's one of my focuses, but it's very difficult, especially with those. There's always some that don't open up as much as others. So getting to know them well enough that I can incorporate their interests and their culture and their strengths into my lessons has been a challenge this year. And then taking that information and using it to plan and create lessons that appeal to lots of different types of students that I have in my classroom. That's been a challenge. The next one that's been a challenge for me is a lack of diversity in my classroom. I mean, obviously I have students that have different types of interests and strengths and that sort of thing, but as far as race or ethnicity, I'm in a small town and there's not a lot of diversity there, so that makes it a challenge. The third one is students seeing it as not fair. I try to create lessons that may not be the same for everyone, and the idea of looking at their cultures and their backgrounds and using that information to create lessons may mean that one student is doing something that's different from another student, and it's hard for them to understand that and not see it, and they oftentimes see it as not being fair. The fourth thing I would say is just funding. I think everyone can relate to that there's not always enough money to do the things that we'd like to do as teachers. I know that some students learn better with more applicable things, more hands-on things, leaving the classroom, going on field trips, seeing things, and that's not always a possibility without any funding to do it. Okay, so some ideas for inclusive leadership that I've kind of got throughout this course and through the reading from throughout the semester. The three areas that I really looked at from the book by Kouzes and Posner the first one, model the way. The things that kind of stood out to me there are the things that I thought about. Treating students with respect. We can model that in the classroom, show other students how to be respectful of those that are different from them and those that are like them too. Um, show acceptance, show appreciation of their strengths. Even if if their strengths aren't things that we necessarily value as much as they might, just to celebrate those things and show our students how to be accepting of others. One way I think we can do this is showing them that that we see their strengths, and then also putting them in groups where they can work with people that are different than them and learn to appreciate the strengths and the differences in others. The next one, challenge the process. As teachers, or as a teacher, I am always looking for ways to improve. Being willing to try new teaching techniques, to learn from those around you. This is my first year teaching, and I've spent a lot of time emailing and calling teachers from other schools, not even necessarily teaching the same things I do, but just surrounding myself with teachers that have been successful and learning what they're doing to be effective in the classroom. And last area that I want to talk about is encourage the heart, and that's this last section we've been looking at. And here this kind of goes back to model the way, but just celebrate your students' strengths, achievements, and accomplishments, and most importantly, just be positive with your feedback and what they're doing. Make a big deal out of their little wins.